Our town, Middletown, is made possible by the following benefactor sponsor: Chris Electric Limited, supplying Newport County, Tiverton, Little Compton, South County, and the West Bay since 1982. Residential and commercial sales, generators, and bucket trucks. Committed to helping Newport County's electrical needs. And the following patron sponsor: the Rotary Club of Middletown.
Charlestown today, you would say, gee, it hasn't changed much.
She remembers my uncle.
Overlooking Maswansuket Pond.
Incorporated in 1743, the town of Middletown sits right in the middle of Aquidneck Island. Covering nearly 15 square miles, this town was once known as a farming community. Today, there is a thriving business district here, in addition to farms, historic homes, and open space that remind residents and visitors alike of days gone by. Whichever road you take, you can find evidence of that history, from the beautiful beaches and protected land to dozens of iconic spots with a narrative to share. There's even a little piece of paradise. Middletown's story comes to life through generations of family-owned businesses, organizations aimed at protecting the town's natural resources and wildlife, and certainly through those who take pride in their town. For the next hour, those who know this area best will take you on a journey through its past and into the present to share with you what makes this town the community it is today. This is their voice and their vision. This is our town, Middletown.
We are Middletown, so we're stuck in between two towns, and sometimes it's like the middle child, you know. I think we have that syndrome. And what was important to me was for people to understand that Middletown's been here since Newport, because it was Newport, and then we got divided. Caliber of the people that were here, and what they built, and why they came here, and what they brought with them. They were well educated, they were wealthy in a lot of aspects, and they wanted to start a new life. Middletown, geographically, is excellent for starting a colony. The weather here, and the soil here, and the fresh water. And the people who worked off of that built the farms. They built more than that. They built a society. They built their churches. They built their schools. They did education. From scratch. The foresight that a lot of them had has given us the beautiful town we have today. So come and visit Middletown, because it's a beautiful place to visit. It is.
Good morning, this is Bill Netterman from the Middletown Historical Society, and I'm going to give you a tour of Boyd's Windmill. Well, come on in. I'm going to take you through the process of getting your corn ground in order to make Johnny cakes. Take the kernels of corn off the cob, and now you had corn that you could put in a bag, and you'd take it to the mill. The corn would be brought upstairs to where the actual milling was done. The way it works is the corn would be dumped into this chute, and this shaft would be going around and around, and the chute would bump into this. They call it the crowfoot, which drives the stone. And the corn would be ground, and as it was ground, it would come out along the edge of the stone. It came down on the chute, and then they had these paddles to pull the corn, the ground corn, over the screen. The finished ground corn would end up in the bottom, where it would be scooped up, bagged, and weighed over on this smaller scale over here. We talked about how the stones operate. Let's talk about how they're driven. They're driven by the wind, by the sails. The sails run a great big wooden, 20-inch wooden shaft that has an enormous gear wheel on it that drives a smaller gear that turns the shaft. And that's how it's powered.
Norman Bird Sanctuary and the property specifically has played a really outsized role in this community, partly just geographically and geologically, but also culturally. Basically, since the mid-1800s, it was a venue for really well-known artists. William Trost Richards, John Lafarge, and it's kind of a combination of the cultural. Paradise Farmhouse, Paradise Valley is really important to the history of the community. It's basically on the National Register as one of the few remaining intact colonial farms, nationwide even, which is kind of amazing. Our founder, Mabel Norman, had incredible vision. So Mabel Norman grew up in Newport, and she was born in 1876. So her family bought Paradise Farm as basically a vacation spot in the early 1900s. So when she was a young adult, and later when she was married, she actually bought out her family, and she and her husband lived there. And she just loved wildlife and birds. So her vision was to make sure that it didn't become developed and protect the habitat for birds and wildlife, but also to give people opportunities to learn from it and enjoy it. And that was her vision. So she created Norman Bird Sanctuary, basically literally for that purpose in her will. As a result, what was 235 acres of historic farm is now 325 acres as a nonprofit designed to protect that for access to the community to enjoy and learn from. She basically spelled out exactly what the property should be used for, with pretty amazing forethought about how biodiversity and habitat and vegetation impact birds, and understanding how people can learn from being in nature and can basically need the open space in order to learn to appreciate nature and spend time outdoors. She also left a small endowment to fund its upkeep, which is wonderful. Since then, it's really expanded, and that endowment probably only makes up about 10% of the annual budget of the organization. But we have thousands of members, donors, corporations, foundations. It's 7 years later, and this organization is led by a board of directors, has a staff of 12, and basically everything she envisioned is happening. 15,000 people a year come and do self-guided exploration. The farm, and also just incredibly diverse habitats. At this point, with the growth that's been added on to the original farm property, the 325 acres that are Norman Bird Sanctuary encompass basically every habitat that you could possibly have in Rhode Island. So it's ridges and rocky ridges, but it's dunes and shore, salt marsh, freshwater marshlands, acres and acres and acres of open fields with vistas to the water, woodlands, ponds, rivers. Basically, if Rhode Island has it, it's in that little microcosm. It covers the full spectrum from some really intensive curriculum tied to state and federal standards that we work with local schools to basically add experiential hands-on learning. So there's opportunities for place-based education for more than 5,000 school children in Rhode Island. Basically, whether it's exploration, inspiration, or really detailed science learning, we're covering the whole spectrum at this point. Yeah, Mabel Norman's vision was really inspiring and pretty unusual to be that forward-thinking about protecting habitat And it really especially unusual for a woman to be doing that also. So we're incredibly grateful for that legacy.
St. Columbas has got a cultural presence in Middletown, beyond being a place of worship. And it is a cornerstone of the Paradise Valley.
Eugene Sturtevant, who described the Middletown Valley as paradise, settled just north of Third Beach after his marriage. He had hoped to make a fortune selling land to wealthy families looking for a summer retreat, but he faced several obstacles, not least the notoriously litigious John Alfred Hazard, who owned a swath of desolate dunes along Second Beach, and for many years fought the building of a road between Middletown and Newport. In the end, it would be Eugene's wife, Mary Clark Sturtevant, who left a lasting mark on Paradise Valley, St. Columbas, the Berkeley Memorial Chapel. Mary was the daughter of Thomas March Clark, Bishop of Rhode Island, and then presiding bishop of the American Episcopal Church. She was also a fervent admirer of another famous churchman, the Anglo-Irish philosopher George Berkeley, who had lived for 3 years at nearby Whitehall in the early 18th century. And while Mary might have been living in a paradise, that paradise had no church. She decided to build a place of worship that would commemorate Berkeley. Sturtevant's daughter, also named Mary, described local reaction to the plan.
My mother wrote to her father that the farmers had manifested the greatest interest in the church, and the men that she least expected had turned out with their ox teams and worked with a hearty goodwill. 2 years elapsed after the digging of the cellar before the laying of the cornerstone, but Mother still kept on with the raising of funds, and greatly must she have felt the need of a church that for 10 years she worked with untiring zeal just to get its bare walls and a roof.
The cornerstone was laid on October 11, 1884, just a year after Hanging Rock Road was finally opened, connecting Indian Avenue with Second Beach Road and with Newport. The chapel was designed by leading Philadelphia architect Wilson Eyre Jr., who had attended school in Newport. St. Columba's exquisite windows were the work of a prominent stained glass artist, David Maitland Armstrong, manufactured at the firm of Armstrong's friend and colleague, Louis C. Tiffany. In a sermon commemorating the chapel's 25th anniversary, its then rector, the Reverend Lotta Griswold, noted that
almost every family of prominence in Newport and every household in this community contributed liberally, according to their means, toward the erection of the church.
Among those involved were the celebrated actor Edwin Booth, brother of the infamous John Wilkes, whose home Boothton was among the first houses on Indian Avenue. In its first years, St. Columbas was served by visiting clergy, among them Dr. Henry Augustus Coit, the founding rector of St. Paul's School, and the Reverend John Diamond, who took charge of the congregation in 1888 and would go on to found St. George's School 8 years later. Until the school built its own chapel in 1928, students walked to St. Columbas each week for Sunday services. That walk might be cold or rainy or snowy, but it was always breathtaking. More than a century later, many generations have been fair congregations at St. Columbas, christening their children, marrying their sweethearts, and burying their loved ones there. The chapel's churchyard is a primer in local history, with stones bearing many illustrious names. The current parish hall was built in 2001, reflecting the style of the church. And in June, when St. Columbas holds its annual English Garden Party, drawing hundreds of people from the island and beyond, something of the same spirit that built the little stone chapel is visible in abundance. Scores of parishioners, friends, and neighbors working together to create something special to the glory of their God and the beloved church that Mary Clark Sturtevant dreamed into existence.
The view from St. George's and the view of St. George's is sort of significant on the Middletown skyline. For me, there's a real personal connection. My great-grandfather went to St. George's, graduated in 1903, and my grandfather in 1941, and my uncle in 1966. And now I'm there as head of school, and my son is a student there, and so I'm excited to be able to share the history of a school that means so much, both to me and I think to the town. The school was founded in 1896 by Reverend John Diamond. He's also, interestingly, the founder of Portsmouth Abbey and Diamond Votech in Fall River. So he's got quite a legacy. But he started the school for about a dozen boys, and it happened originally in a house in Newport, actually 2 different houses. He was originally a deacon at St. Columbas down in Middletown, and so he had a connection. He was from Providence, but he had a connection to Middletown and to the island, and so came and started the school. I think he just found a house to rent and put an ad in the Projo and had people sign up, and 12 people, sent their boys here in 1896. But the main campus they moved to in the early 20th century. The first building built was Old School, which is the one as you drive in the driveway, the red doors straight ahead, and it's still referred to as Old School. Reverend Diamond raised the money to build Old School and to buy the land and build Old School, and they moved in, and that housed for a long time, still actually houses some dorm rooms upstairs, and then downstairs it includes my office, it includes our admissions office now, and a beautiful common room which overlooks Second Beach. It's just stunning. Kids love the beach. That's a huge part of it. We have a surf team that happens in the fall, so there's a group of kids who go surfing every afternoon, but all of our students are allowed to go surfing after 6, actually if they have parent permission, they're allowed to go after 6:30 in the morning. And especially on a nice morning in the fall, you can hear them walking down to the beach with their surfboards. We are so lucky to be located where we are, and to have the chance to connect with the Middletown and Newport and Portsmouth communities is just wonderful. Our students do a lot of community service in the community, so whether it be the MLK Center in Newport or the various, human and health services programs here in Middletown and Newport, and Sale Newport, and Lucy's Hearth, and the Women's Resource Center, and kids are doing lots of really great work at many of those places. So, and I'm so thankful for them for opening their doors to our students, because I think our students gain as much from those experiences as do those community organizations. Another amazing space was completed in 1928, and it's our memorial schoolhouse, which was built in memory of boys from the school who'd been killed in World War I. And there's a beautiful space as you walk in that recognizes them, and then people who are subsequently killed in later wars as well. Another big moment for the school, though, I should say, is that the chapel was built in the 1920s, and John Nicholas Brown had been a student at St. George's, and while he was a student at Harvard, felt that it was very important for the school to have a chapel at the center of its campus, and so he worked to design the building as it is now, and the details and the thought he put into absolutely every bit of that building is just amazing. And it remains an incredibly important piece of our campus. We gather twice a week there on Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings, and students give chapel talks and share their thoughts about everything from life to their experience at St. George's. Our mission was, from the start, we still use the same mission statement, but to prepare students for lives of constructive service to the world. And I just think that's a wonderful sentiment and something that resonates today.
The house was originally built in 1857 by Richard Upjohn.
Last year at this time, we received the news that the house was successful in its campaign to be listed individually on the National Register of Historic Places. And for us, it was such a triumph for the house, because at the time we bought the house, all its history and all its grandeur was lost to time. So we really brought it back, but we uncovered all the amazing history.
And as we came into it, Cheryl, who is an architectural historian, started to unearth all these amazing coincidences that were part of the house, including one that had the house listed as being demolished.
Architectural heritage of Newport, Rhode Island.
Downey is probably the most important book on the history of architecture in Rhode Island.
So these are all these chapters that we're uncovering while we're restoring the house. People weren't sure if Richard Upjohn was the architect. They knew he definitely designed the neighboring house, but there was no evidence. And we found all the letters between the architect and the client was Alexander Van Rensselaer. There we were. We proved that Richard Upjohn was the architect of the house. So then we kept sleuthing and doing more detective work, and we wanted to know the succession of owners. So one day John walked in the house and I said, "You're gonna think I'm making this up, but Van Rensselaer sold the house to Adolphe Audrain." And John had recently restored the Audrain building on Bellevue Avenue, which is now a car museum. He sold antiques from France. He had a shop in Paris, a shop in New York. The store in Bellevue Avenue was sort of the jewel in his crown. And so then we started looking very closely at all the light fixtures, only to find out that they were rare French antiques. So then we found a newspaper account that confirmed Audrain filled a container in France with all kinds of goodies for the house. So that was just a really exciting chapter. So then moving on to the next significant owner, that was Admiral Kalfus. So we sought permission to spend a few hours at the Naval War College going through their archives. And we were presented with an enormous box filled with all the personal correspondence that Admiral Kalfus had about Restmere over the course of 30+ years. The Admiral died, I think, in the 50s, and Sylvia died in the 60s, and they didn't have any children, and the house was just sort of hanging there in question. A developer bought it, and it was slated for demolition, but while the house was empty, George Wein in 1964 rented the house to house all these blues musicians. And the house became a legend in music history because for 4 days and for 4 nights it was called the Blues House. And anyone who was involved with the festival that year showed up at the house and they jammed, and they even recorded an album, and the cover of the album is a photograph of the front of the house. And this whole story of how musicians of every color came together at Restmere during the height of the Civil Rights Movement. It's a powerful, powerful story for Middletown, for Rhode Island, and for civil rights history.
The house had been very well stewarded by the previous owners, meaning that they had not done anything, including not ripping out aspects of the house that were significant. It's a culmination of 2 really different styles. So it's Italianate, which is what Richard Upjohn did. So the details inside, they are Italianate in spirit, and then when Audrain came in, he brought in a lot of colonial revival detail. We like to call it colonial revival on steroids. It's unbelievable in that main hall with the Corinthian columns, the fluted columns, Corinthian capitals, and just the detail. And it was rehabilitated by Richard Morris Hunt. And he put in his signature floor, which is this, it looks like a boat floor, meaning that it's a contrasting wood of poplar, we think, and walnut, because those were the woods that were available, readily available.
When we bought the house, that was a pile of metal deposited in the corner of the bathroom. So we have a friend who specializes in the restoration of antique plumbing. And we said, "Well, what is it?" And he says, "Oh, it's a ribcage shower from the early 1900s. And the metal is nickel. So during wars, the metal was melted down, and there are only a few remain. They're extremely rare."
This used to be a 5-acre parcel. And so we took a look at the original landscape plan that Cheryl had found. We tried to create on a 1/2 acre a little bit of that majesty of the drive. So now the house has a formal presence once more.
Church of the Holy Cross has been here since roughly 1845, and for many years we were like overlooked almost within the diocese, the Episcopal Diocese of Rhode Island. There were points where there was clergy in the diocese that didn't even know we existed. In 1843, There was a Miss Sarah Gibbs who lived in Oak Lawn on what was then called the East Main Road. And she wanted to bring religious services to the area. There was churches in Newport, and of course St. Mary's was out in Portsmouth. Back then that was a great distance, and she wanted to bring something local to the Middletown area. So Reverend Hobart Williams arrived in 1843, and they did services in houses on the old school on Middle Road, but the congregation started outgrowing those. So they moved to the Oliphant School, school on Oliphant Road, and in 1845 they started outgrowing that, so they decided to build a church. One of the first leaders of the church, a Mr. John Gilliat, donated money to buy 1/2 acre of land on the south corner of Oliphant Road where the church is located now. Richard Upjohn, who was a famous English architect, was commissioned to design the church. So for the princely sum of $55, he was commissioned to design the church. And in October of 1845, the church was actually consecrated. For many years, the church was actually a part of St. Mary's in Portsmouth, where a single priest served both. This went for close to almost 100 years. Archie Burdick, who at the time was the superintendent of the Seamen's Church Institute in Newport, said, "I'll come out for a few months and give it a try." That was in 1959, and he stayed on as our priest in charge until 1982, 23 years. We're a small congregation. Average Sunday attendance is maybe anywhere from 28 to 32, but we do quite a lot. We are involved with Emmanuel Church in Newport. They do a Soups On Soup Kitchen the first Tuesday of every month. We assist them with that. We do our blessing bags. These are 1-gallon Ziploc bags that we fill with items that a homeless person could potentially use. There's also, you'll see pictures of Operation Turkey Sandwich. We come in and we put these sandwiches together in paper bags with usually a small bottle of water, a cookie or some sort of a sweet treat or something like that, and we go around to local businesses that are open on Thanksgiving morning and we give them lunch. Giving back to the community should be every church's goal. We do it as best we can.
Prescott Farm is on the border of Middletown in Portsmouth. It's a property that had a role or a history during the Battle of Rhode Island during the Revolutionary War. It also has the Sherman Mill on the grounds, and Middletown's official seal has a windmill on it. So again, I thought that should be included. So I did go out there and I had a great interview with someone from the Newport Restoration Foundation who owns the property and manages it.
My name is Kelsey Mullen and I serve as the Public Programs Manager for the Newport Restoration Foundation. Prescott Farm is one of our many properties, and the history here really dates to the earliest history of the state of Rhode Island. Prescott Farm is named after General Prescott, who was the commander of the British forces here in Rhode Island during the American Revolution. Not a popular guy, as you might imagine, and he lived in the very big house here that we call the Overing-Nichols House on the property. He occupied that house when he came to oversee the troops because it was big, it was impressive, and it sits on a hill, a promontory here that gave him a good view of the land around him and the bay just a little further beyond. The American rebels were not pleased with the occupying forces, and a man named William Barton in 1777 led a raid of Prescott's home here at Prescott Farm and captured the general in the middle of the night. He was caught in his nightclothes clothes, which led to him being called the Barefoot or Nightclothes General. General Prescott was eventually traded for an American general, Charles Lee, so he was returned to the British side in exchange for a key military figure on the American Patriot side, and we have now sort of commemorated this moment in history here at Prescott Farm. The house still exists, the farm still exists. The largest open space here on Aquidneck Island that's open to the public. We have about 40 acres here right in the middle of the island. Doris Duke founded the Newport Restoration Foundation in 1968 with the idea of celebrating and preserving Aquidneck Island's 18th and early 19th century architectural heritage. She purchased this land in 1969 with the notion that this would become a small Sturbridge Village or living history site, and she relocated a number of buildings here to the property. So the buildings you see around Prescott Farm today many of these buildings did not exist here historically. They were moved here in the 60s and 70s. That includes the Windmill that we all see passing down West Main Road. The Windmill dates to 1812 and was on several different sites before coming to this one, and it is now an iconic building here in Middletown. Doris Duke's vision of a living history site never fully came to fruition, but her dream that this become a public park, an asset to Middletown and Aquidneck Island residents, did come true.
And I also have a little bit of a personal history with Prescott Farm. A house that now sits there used to be in Portsmouth, and it was the rectory at St. Barnabas Church. My grandmother, for all of the 1970s through the early 80s, was the live-in housekeeper for St. Barnabas Church. So she actually lived in that house when it was on East Main Road at St. Barnabas.
We hope to expand access to this site for more and more people to enjoy. We hope more people see this as a public park and an extension of their backyard where they can come and enjoy time and explore the historic buildings. And just by keeping it open and free of development and building and modernization, we're helping to preserve something really special about this place. On an island, there's only so much space to grow and develop, and the Newport Restoration Foundation sees it as our role to protect this plot of 40 acres and what it means to the people who live here.
It's just a gorgeous area where you can walk trails and see wildlife, and you're hugging the rocky shoreline. Just beautiful photography spots, birding spots. I spoke with Janice, who works for U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Welcome to Satras Point National Wildlife Refuge. As you can tell, it's a place for habitat, wildlife, and people. And in fact, it's a place for visitors to come, rest up, rejuvenate their spirits, just like the migratory birds do here. This refuge totals 242 acres, and it is deep in history. In fact, the bedrock here was once part of Africa and is 600 million years old. And you walk the Price Neck Overlook Trail, you would be standing on, which was part of Africa that split off during the supercontinent Pangaea. We are also rich in history with the native tribes. Narragansetts and the Wampanoag tribes were here. They used these lands as a place to farm and a place to fish and a place to make tools. The next part of the history here is the place called Paradise. From St. George High School, or preparatory school, to this area here up at Satras was once called Paradise. People from far away would come here as inspiration and to paint. After that, this land was rich in farming, but not vegetable crops. So you can imagine with the harsh winds and the salt spray, it was tough to do vegetable crops. So they were mainly dairy farmers, and they raised cows and sheep, but they also planted corn and potatoes. Then this land after that was used by the military in World War I and II for firing practices, and also they built military operation facilities that were disguised as a seaside homestead. So in the water tower was the radar communications, and in the silo was overlook so they could spot German subs. Many folks in the community are connected to the history, whether it's their dad who worked in the Navy in the radar facility here, whether it's their dad that trained here in the firing range, or that they had picnics here next to the silo when it was still a seaside farm. They come here to tell us our stories. What we do here as part of managing for the wildlife and managing the habitat, we actually conduct prescribed burns, we plant native plants, we battle the invasive plants such as bittersweet and garlic mustard and the swallowwort. And we also work on pipe and plover monitoring and pipe and plover program and recovery and salt marsh restoration. This all brings more diversity to the land, increases the variety of birds that visit, and actually helps to address climate change through resiliency of our salt marshes. We also provide environmental education classes with our partners, like Norman Bird Sanctuary, provide volunteer-led wildlife interpretation program. We work on the trails, we maintain the trails, and also observation platform. That's important to us, is to provide a place that people can connect with nature. We believe if we manage the lands, it's going to bring the birds and the wildlife, so great birding opportunities. People come from all over to see the colorful harlequin duck and the colorful eiders and other sea ducks, and that means they're staying in hotels, they're visiting the shops, they're visiting the restaurant. The future plan is to maintain the facilities, the trails, and the visitor center to be welcoming and orientating to the visitors, and to continue to maintain the habitat for wildlife. That's our future goals, is to continue working and doing what we're doing.
Except for 6 years, I've been a lifelong Middletown resident, graduated through Middletown High School, and I still live here, and my husband and I raised our son here also through Middletown High School. So I feel very connected to the community and the special places we have here that I really thought should be included in a segment about Middletown. And being a musician and having some video background, I was like, wow, what a great project to be a part of my hometown. I did 6 spots. I did Satchewist Point National Wildlife Refuge, Surfer's End, Purgatory Chasm, Paradise Valley Park, Prescott Farm, and Frosty Freeze, because they're very iconic to Middletown. I went to Surfer's End and just took some video, and I just happened to go on a day where there was a little bit of some, you know, waves coming in, and I did get about 3 or 4 surfers that were out there. It's just, again, a Middletown iconic spot. That's where the surfers go. That's where we go to watch the surfers. It's where we go when storms are coming, and you know, everybody goes down there to you know, watch the surf come in. At the intersection of Purgatory Road and Tuckerman Avenue, there's a little parking lot that you can park in, and it's about a 100-yard walk, very easy. I read that it's basically called the shortest hike to the most beautiful place in Rhode Island. It's basically a fissure caused by glaciers in between the rocks, and there's a little wooden cover bridge that you can stand on and watch the ocean rush in and out of the the fissure. It's very beautiful. In addition to that, once you go past the little wooden bridge, there's a big rocky overlook. And when you're on top of there, you get a very unique view of Second Beach and Surfer's End from the ocean side looking back in. So it's just breathtaking and stunning. Paradise Valley Park is on Prospect Avenue, just off of Paradise Avenue, not too far from the beaches. What I understand is that when early settlers were first coming here, they called the area Paradise, probably because of the natural beauty. There's another windmill, the Boyd's Grist Mill, is on the property. There's a small little one-room schoolhouse there. It's part of Middletown's Historical Society. And it's just a very pretty spot with little trails. I've had friends from out of town that had never been here before, and those are all the spots that I've taken them. Yeah, definitely beautiful, beautiful spots. You know, and when you really think about it, you're like, I cannot believe I live here. How lucky.
I think the story of the library is best told by the people who have enjoyed the library, who have, you know, the library from the past, the library in the present, people who envisioned it, who supported it, who developed it, and people now who enjoyed it. And I think that this library is really special in that not only did it make me feel welcome when I came on board as library director, but I saw how much it means to the staff and to the people who come in that it's here.
Libraries now are much more than just repositories for books. They are also community centers.
Hello, and welcome to the Friends of the Middletown Library and to the Friends Bookstore. So the question is, who are the Friends and what do we do? The Friends were organized in 1980, and we incorporated in 1983 with the help of Norman Hall. We are a nonprofit, tax-exempt organization, and our whole focus is to support the library with people, with volunteers, with fundraising. We had the big book sale, and then several people decided to set up a bookstore. All of our books are donated by families, by organizations, by people who are interested in the library and what we can do here.
My name is Bob Crump. I'm currently a trustee of the Middletown Library. When I first moved here, going to Middletown, the first public building you would see as you moved to town was the Middletown Library, located at the corner of Oliphant Lane and West Main Road. It was built back when West Main Road was actually a dirt road, believe it or not. And it was located right in the middle of what was currently, at that point in time, an agricultural area. The building itself was a very small building when you think of libraries being large buildings today, but then it was the size of a small cottage. The key feature of it was books. The high-tech equipment there was a telephone, which was wired, attached right to the wall. Rather old-fashioned, of course, but, and of course the card catalog, which located all of the books in the library. But it was a great place to go in the afternoon. I managed to get my kids interested in books as I had been, and it was really a wonderful time.
Hi, my name is Susan Connor. I have been asked to talk to you a little bit about the evolution of technology here at the Middletown Library. I was first hired in year one. We had no computer equipment at all here in this library. That was in August of 1990. So over the years, we've come a long way. We now have 40+ computers here in the library. We have staff trained to assist our patrons coming in, and we offer assistance using this equipment here in the library. We offer laptops for use in the library. We have state-of-the-art photocopiers here in the library.
How we keep people interested, how we remain relevant. Exactly. So we have 3D printing classes, and they've been wildly popular. So we're just getting ready to start to loan tablets, and that was a little scary because we're hoping they come back. But but you know, we got these really nice tablets. We loaded them up with ebooks, So you could borrow a tablet, take it on vacation. We have a community garden out back, and that draws in a lot of people. It's 100% self-sustaining, and it isn't a drain on time, and everybody loves it. I have a waiting list of people who, want to have a garden bed. Through the Rhode Island DEM, we have 20 fishing poles that we lend and tackle boxes.
And then there are the children's programs, things like story time for the young children, or baby time for the little ones.
So just lots of things that you may find out there, but when you do it here, it doesn't cost you anything. And I feel that without the library, Middletown would be a very different place.
As a youngster, we had an Edison crank phonograph that we just used as a toy. It was given to us by the neighbors, and it was a lot of fun. About 15 years ago, I was at a big antique store, and someone had brought in a Victor machine that they had rehabbed. And we found a Broadway recording from about 1950 and put it on there, and I was absolutely amazed at the sound these machines make. The fact is that these machines, even though they're most of a century old, some of them are more than a century old, if they're properly restored, they are as viable for educational and recreational purposes as they ever were. So when I sort of retired about 6 years ago, I started doing this. That's why I have given machines to more than a dozen schools and libraries so that they can make use of the technology. It takes between 70 and 90 hours to restore each machine. It's a lot of work. It's more labor than it is parts. When restoring one of these machines, it's necessary to take it apart. There's no real way to restore the things without getting down to item by item by item. The reproducer is what holds the needle. It fits on there. These have to be rebuilt. The parts aren't expensive, but it takes about 6 hours to get the work done. Here is the crank, which was also terribly corroded. It took 45 minutes just to get down to the steel. There was that much corrosion on it. A lot of these machines are in pretty pathetic condition, but time and a lot of effort makes it worth it because it restores the machine to as good as new or even better. This is the motor from the Model 210, and it's being cleaned up so it'll run a little better. And as we wind it, you can hear the springs adjusting to the tension. And pretty soon it begins to move. There we go. These machines are spring driven, okay? There's no electricity involved at all. It's strictly a mechanical system, and it runs because somebody does this. Wind one of these machines up, it'll run for about 4 minutes on one point. That's enough to play a 12-inch record. Acoustic phonography, if it's properly if the machines are properly restored, is an experience in itself. One machine I put into a school, there are 4 teachers use that machine. That machine is used 4 days a week, week after week. And in fact, they're thinking about asking for another machine. When I donate a machine, I donate between 4 and 6 dozen records with it. The thing that has been the bonus is that I went looking for 5 or 6 discs just to show my own students the old technology, and what I found was this treasure trove of material on 78 RPM record. The people who started collecting those in the late 1950s are passing on now, and these collections are coming into the stores. And I found the most remarkable things. I have original Broadway cast recordings, I think, of 11 musicals, including the original Porgy and Bess, South Pacific. You know, I'll do anything to get a kid to listen to Beethoven, all right? Music has taken it on the chin in some school districts. Some districts it's been eliminated altogether, and that's very sad, because great music is great literature, just as much as Shakespeare or Milton or the Bible. It really is great stuff, and you know, over the centuries, millions of people have found their way through this life with the help of music or one of the other arts.
Middletown's got a lot of good things going for it, and a lot of great kids, a lot of good community, a lot of support. And the high school and the actual school department is a staple in the town. I mean, these kids, they're in class, and then they participate in sports, they participate in drama activities and other different activities within the town, outside of the town, representing Middletown. And I feel that the kids do a really good job of that, and they do it with a lot of pride.
Go Islanders!
Everyone has a genuine interest in the school and in the town, and they love it. And it's fun for me to talk to them about it, and it's fun for them to share with me some of their experiences and adventures. The kids talk about the second beach, the first beach, riding their bikes down there, getting jobs, lifeguard jobs, working in the summertime, the tourists coming out, and trying to promote the town as much as they can, because you know, when people come to visit, obviously they want people to have a good experience, and our kids are part of it because they're working at a lot of these places. I mean, you'll hear from students who've worked at some of the mansions and people that they've met. I mean, our kids meet people from all over the country. And the high school does the International Night. The World Language Department does a really good job organizing that, where multiple different nationalities are recognized and shown off and displayed so everybody can learn about them. What they learn from the school in and out, we hope that they're able to take with them wherever they go, if it's college or to serve or to the rec world. Whatever we teach them in and out of the classroom, socially, academically, we hope that they're able to take with them and inspire others and motivate others and do good things.
Having grown up here, I don't remember a time or a summer where we did not go to Frosty Freeze. Again, as kids, we would sit under the old twisted tree on a telephone pole that a previous owner had brought in from the electric company, and that's the bench. They have a telephone pole laying on the ground, and that's where everybody sits under the tree, and people tailgate in the parking lot.
Middletown doesn't really have a downtown, but this is a social gathering right here. I mean, people enjoy seeing people in line.
Yep, they hang out in the back of the cars. You know, they put the backs of their SUVs up and they sit there and
tailgate.
Tailgate, exactly. And you know, people hanging out by the tables. They even sit on the little lawn over there. It turns into quite the little social event sometimes. I'm Kim. This is Mark Pacheco. We took over Frosty Freeze in June of 2000. Leo Cassidy owned in the back on this piece of property. He owned Acme Luncheonette, and we're not 100% sure, but in 1956 he opened up part of the Tasty Freeze. It was part of the chain. Anytime you see the roof line in America of a little building like this, it was actually a Tasty Freeze. They had plans. They had actual architectural plans, and they built it. And a lot of people, after several years, would buy out of the chain and rename it. And apparently that is what Mr. Cassidy did. He and his wife Grace had it from 56 until 77. This photo, Mr. Rhode, the person that we purchased it from, took the place over in 77. He had a little store back here, Ray's Fashions. And then the Cassidys, who lived in that trailer, asked Mr. Rope if he'd be interested in taking over the Frosty Freeze. So in 77, Mr. Rope bought this, and then he and his wife ran this place up until like either 90 or 91, and then his daughter and son-in-law took over. They did it throughout the entire 90s. And then we took over in 2000.
So we're only the third family to operate.
And the funny thing about this place for us personally is that we're from Newport. We're born Newporters. We now consider ourselves Middletowners. We really appreciate the community feel of Middletown. We're involved in a lot of stuff as far as sponsorship. We donate. We're known to never say no. we donate. You come looking for something, we always have something for the raffle prizes. We do tons of gift certificates, and we find it always comes back to us. Another way that we feel we've impacted Middletown is all the kids we've hired. You know, so many kids, this has been their first job, and we've taught them about customer service, and we've taught them how to clean and how to be, you know, responsible, and we've been to, I don't even know now, I'm gonna say 7, 8 weddings, baby showers, bridal showers. They're all family now. They come back and visit. We just had our 25th Frosty Freeze grandbaby since we took over. We also impact how people feel about seasons. People think, oh, Frosty Freeze open, summer's around the corner.
We get credit for summer.
Yeah.
And blame for winter.
And even when it's snowing on opening day, people still will stand in that line and say, well, at least summer's coming, while they're ordering their cone. I love that. I think my ideal situation leaving here would obviously be to pass it on to somebody else who cares about it as much as we have. Hope it's here for a lot more seasons.
Our town, Middletown, is made possible by the following benefactor sponsor: Chris Electric Limited, supplying Newport County, Tiverton, Little Compton, South County, and the West Bay since 1982. Residential and commercial sales, generators, and bucket trucks. Committed to helping Newport County's electrical needs. And the following patron sponsor: the Rotary Club of Middletown.